Now I'm at the point where I'm just exhausted from doing normal daily things, and the arguing isn't there or almost isn't there. There's just a couple times things happen, but
all right, well that's good.
yeah.
So it does feel less horrible, right? Because now you don't have layers and layers upon layers of exhaustion, right?
Yes.
So now it's just, here we are in reality. So let's just learn how to function in reality compared to, not only do I have to function in reality, but I have all of this pressure to make up damages done.
Yeah.
Fix things. And I have to, kind of like there's all this drama that has to be reconciled and fixed. And then I have to function on top of that. So now it's like nothing needs to be fixed. So let's just function in. That's got to feel better.
Yeah, it does. And then I question, like, well, am I eating okay or better or good? And then I'm like, there isn't good or better or perfect. So I'm doing fine.
Right? And isn't that a fortune? Isn't that fortune?
Yeah.
Because you have the abundance. There's no real problem with food.
Yeah.
So don't you agree that should feel like depressurizing in terms of like, do something. That sense of doing something that comes from that survival mechanism. It's like, I don't have to do anything. There's nothing wrong. Nothing needs to be done. Isn't that like, because we're lucky. Because we live in luxury. That's why.
Yeah.
Right? Have you noticed that because of that, food maybe has lost its specialness?
Yeah.
It has?
Now it's just kind of, like if there's a struggle with food, it's just what do I want to eat? Like, because there's 5 different things that look good and which one?
Yeah.
Am I going to pick?
Doesn't that sound like, well, of course, isn't that the luxury we live in?
Yeah.
You get 5 options right now. It's not just bread and water. Crackers.
Yeah.
And a can of sardines. I know. It's so different. It's such a different way to be. Can you feel that?
Yeah.
There's no strain. There's no stress. There's just abundance. Remember when have you ever heard any of the sessions where I talk about the table of abundance?
Yes.
Like, it loses its sparkle. The preciousness of food, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, look at all these choices.
And then if I pick something that would have been classified as bad before, I'm like, so it looks good, and next time I'll eat something else. Who cares?
Right. Well, and is it really? Well, exactly. And if I don't eat it right now, I can eat it later. It's not going anywhere. They're not going. It's not going anywhere. I can have it anytime.
Yeah, like there's things in my house right now that would not have been here. I would have ate it all, so it was out of here.
Right. So it doesn't really hold in your mind anymore either. That's a weird. To me, that's like such a relieving symptom. When someone is in that strain with, I have to diet, food is held in mind. Like, you have to be aware of food at all times, where it's at, what is it, what's in it, what you shouldn't eat, what I could eat. If I eat it, it's bad. So you're constantly holding food in your mind.
Right. And how can you do anything else in your life if you're constantly worried about that?
Right? And it's just like, and you can't get rid of that. So then we say you're addicted. But are we really addicted if you get rid of the concept of deprivation and diet permanently, the holding of food in mind just literally goes away. There's no reason to hold it in your mind. Because it's there. There's this awareness that food is there all the time. So why do I need to hold on to it? That's the weird, it's like this symptom of like that gripping onto food, and then all of a sudden there's no point to gripping. Because food's always there. I can just rely it's going to be there. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to worry about it. It's always there. So I can black it out from my conscious mind can be completely forgotten about. Because you're aware it will always be there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That should feel amazing.
Yeah.
In comparison. Do you feel that way yet, or is that not quite there yet?
Well, it's probably part of my expectation of it to feel like so amazing, and then I'm not going to meet that expectation. That the reality is, it's good, it's normal. It's so much better than it was.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, it's relieving.
I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's not this. It's not the forceful euphoria that you used to get when you would binge. That's different.
Yeah.
This is like this. It's a calm relief. Like, imagine that you have $1 million in debt, and someone says, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's covered." How would that feel?
Amazing.
That's what it feels like. Yeah, nothing's really changed. You don't have to do anything, but it's this relief. Ugh. Oh my God. Just the relief of it. It's not like you won the lottery and gained huge amounts of money and you're sitting in gold and farting gold and shit like that. You're just relieved from debt. Yeah. Zero. So you feel the difference? The illusion of a binge is that I'm sitting on gold. Just for now. Because eventually I got to go back to what I'm doing, right? That's different. That's like the narcissism. That's the ego attachment. That's the self-serving gain. I deserve it. I earned it. This is very different because there's no fight. There's no force. So it should feel really calm. To me, the amazingness, when I say it feels amazing, it's because the pressure of the debt, right? The work you have to do just to get to zero is so suffocating. It's so dark, looming. And that's what I call depression, right? It's horrible. It's like you can't escape. And so to just be given freedom, the relative difference, right? Yeah. Is massive. So that's when I say doesn't it feel amazing? It's just the relief that's amazing. Yeah. So going back to the way it was before, where food was the biggest thing, all you could think about everywhere, the constant thinking about it, worrying about it, what you should do. Think of all the mental slavery that went into that. Then the shame about when you didn't do it, when you couldn't do it. And then the anger and the type of like withdrawals from the failure or sense of failure you would get that definitely permeates into how you relate to others because you're kind of in a terrible state of mind because you feel like such a piece of shit. And then it's like the debt just got bigger. You now have to work harder, and how that can create this kind of animal impulsiveness, right? Yes. And then this idea you have to starve yourself. Am I describing this very well? Yeah. It's because I've been there. I've been there. I feel it. I get it, right?
People... And then I had other things happen this week that were not related to food, but that I wasn't, that I noticed that I wasn't getting all worked up or angry at myself. Like I put up Christmas lights in a wreath, and I was standing there shaking out the cord. You know how you have to shake out the cord to make it straight, and then you're going to do whatever you want with it. Normally I'd have been like, why isn't this cord unwrapping perfectly and not getting in knots, and I'm horrible, and this and that. And I was just standing there shaking it out and starting to put it on there. I'm like, there's something weird about this. And it was that my mind was quiet. There was no like, you know, arguing why isn't this working perfectly, and it's so stupid and I'm stupid.
Oh my God, that is awesome. Again, that's one of those natural consequences of removing the debt.
Yeah.
Right? There's no pressure of perfection anymore. It just naturally resolves. It is isn't that bizarre too? I totally agree. If you're feeling like this is weird,
Yeah.
That's
kind of how I'm feeling about everything right now. It's just kind of weird, but nice and normal
and freeing, and it's kind of like you lost the war, so you quit. How's that feel? How's that feel?
Fine.
Way better, right? Wouldn't you? So one of the things that I remember thinking about was, so I can either quit and accept failure, right? Which is what I've been running away from. I can't admit it. I can't give this up. Don't quit, don't quit, don't quit. But yet I'm miserable, spiraling into a terrible dark space of suicidal depression and all this because I refuse to quit. Well, what if I'm losing? What if this is a loss? What if this is a failure? What if I am not, this is, why can't I, is it better to not quit and literally just pummel yourself into non-existence, right? In depression.
No.
Because of your pride and refusal. Or to just accept in humility, I'm done. I clearly am not equipped to do this. Every time I try, everything gets worse. So the admittance of failure, right? It's like saying, it's done. I did it. It's horrible. I'm done. Like, you're relieved. You quit. I filed bankruptcy.
Yeah.
I'm emotionally bankrupt, physically bankrupt. I can't do this anymore. The pressure of having to pay back millions of dollars, right? In terms of weight, in terms of body fat, is horrible, right? And it's not for lack of effort, right? So it's not like the effort has been extreme. The desire has been extreme to lose weight. Don't you agree?
Yes.
So.
And it's you're going the opposite way than you had always wanted to go, and everybody wants you to go.
Right, and it's really dark and depressive and exhaustive, and it's, don't you agree, more than anybody should be expected. This is more than anybody should be expected. Because it's not like, you've done something so horribly wrong that deserves this. This is when I'm like, did I murder someone? Did I molest a child? Did I torture people? Because this to me is equal to that type of punishment. You have to starve yourself perfectly for the rest of your life. Doesn't that sound like horrible?
Yes.
Just so that we think your body is good looking as an emaciation.
Yeah, I'd rather live without the pressure and be whatever size I'm going to be.
Well, because if you do that, right, you give yourself the grace to say, hey, this isn't a lack of effort. If you want to give me an F, sure, because I didn't get the end result. But the effort here is like A++, AP credit. I should have a doctorate.
Yeah.
Right? So you're the only one that knows that truth, right? I'm on the outside. I'm aware of that truth for me. And so I'm making the assumption it's similar for you. I seriously can't even tell you what debt you served. How much debt did you serve? 5 million? But yet you still have $1 million in debt? Right?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, you're the only one that knows what you've done. And who are you afraid of? Like, whose shame are you afraid of because you failed?
Yeah.
Yours. It's really yours. Because it was your pride that said, I can't quit.
Yeah, I thought it was other people, but then
it's yours.
When I broke it down, it was mine, yeah.
So that's why I think this is like a Stockholm syndrome. You're holding yourself to this horrible system. It is a system, right? We could say that it wasn't your idea that people should be this ridiculous. This is actually really promoted.
Yeah, like I wouldn't have thought of it myself. I'm sure.
Of course, you just heard it and was like, okay, I'm on board. And so once you do that, you are now the one who's holding yourself to those standards. You don't need anybody else to do it for you. That's very hard to see. That's kind of like the programming or brainwashing. Once someone internalizes those beliefs, it now becomes my belief. I feel bad about myself. I feel like I shouldn't quit. I feel like I should keep on trying, even though the evidence is suggesting every effort you make has an equal opposite rebound effect. Right? The more I restrict, the more I'm going to binge. And it's not just personally you that's the problem. Have you ever questioned the diet and how they glamorize their restrictions as if it's easy and everybody's winning when it's really not easy, and not really hardly anybody statistically is winning at all?
Yeah, no, I would blame myself for binging when it was just natural to do that.
Yep, never questioning that the belief that these diets that are highly restrictive in an environment where there's tons of food is not healthy for any human being.
Yeah.
Period. Not just you. And that is the sad part about it, really, is that people that are in this never question the diet industry. Never. Ever. You would never think that what they're suggesting is horrible for your psychological well-being, because it goes against our primitive nature. Our primitive nature is to make sure we are safe and secure with food. That's it. That's the basic fundamental Maslow's of hierarchy of needs, the foundation of human psychology. Is we are wired to prioritize physiological needs for life and death before anything. So if food is threatened, your brain is going to obsess about food. So remember when I said you got to think about it, you're thinking about it, you got to worry about it. That is primitive psychological wiring working awesome. So when you're in that, when I was in that, food becomes like magnified. It's called a cognitive distortion. This is how survival mode works. And because of that, you're shamed. You don't really have a choice at that point.
I was, but now I'm not.
Does that make sense? Like that's not a choice. The magnification of food, that's not a choice. That's a primitive mechanism working perfect. You have no. What you do have a choice over is the belief that you should be depriving yourself, and the blind faith that you've given this diet industry as if they're the authority. Right?
Yeah.
So when you come to this place and you accept failure, it's such a beautiful place to be, because it's the really only place you can see, was it me that failed, or was the system bad? A bad system.
Yeah.
Meaning it's like the system is a failure because they don't. Because if you look at the statistics, you know how many people actually succeed with food deprivation? Long term. They can sustain it.
None.
There's the random anorexics that kill themselves. And they have to be in isolation to do it. They don't go out in public. Yeah. Then they win. They're winning. And there's a you see how fucked up that is?
Yeah.
And it's so sad because they're willing to die to keep on winning. They don't care.
Yeah.
You know how many, I have to tell you, I've worked with a lot of orthorexic nutritionists who really think they're extra special because they know the best way to starve themselves and make it healthy and seem healthy. It's so healthy to do this, Robin. Then why are you talking to me? Why are you so miserable and depressed? Well, that's genetics. My family has depression.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess you're good to go then. You know, for me, it was once I surrendered, which was the hardest part, right? To me, that was like so painful.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? What can you do? You got two or three choices. I either face the pain of failure that feels like death, or I keep on avoiding it, refusing it, denying it, which is why I'm suffering so intensely. I want to kill myself because I have to do all this crazy shit just to feel neutral. So I'm a slave, and that makes life worthless. Or I can kill myself. So I have three options.
Yeah.
And so I decided, why not face the pain first and accept the failure, because when I commit suicide, it's the same thing anyways. So why not face it first, see what I can learn. And if I don't like it, I can still kill myself. This is my rationale and how I got to this, right?
I'm glad you made that choice.
Well, it's because it gave me the opportunity to understand what was going on. Because for the moment, I failed and accepted, like what you're in right now. I had a separation from it to see how messed up it was. Like, really, my worth is this body that requires insanity to maintain? Like, nobody should have to live in insanity just to be praised. I don't want it. I don't want the praise. And that was the moment, it was massive for me to say, I reject the praise. I don't even want it. So even if I could have the body, I don't want the praise. I don't care. I don't want to identify by it. I don't want to sustain it. And I don't want to promote it. Right? Why would you do that? You're just going to go back into your crazy. So for me, it was a complete abandonment of the self-promotion and the detachment from any condition of the body. So it was like, if I don't care about the condition of this body, if I accept it for what it is and the life it gives me, and that's what I approve of. I approve of the life it's providing me. Now what type of insanity do I have? None. I know it sounds insane to brainwashed culture, right? I sound like a freaking mad person.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't care. And I don't think you should care either, even if you're 400 pounds. That's no shit you shouldn't care. You've cared too much. That's why you're that big.
Yeah.
Right? Can you see that now?
Yes, I know.
It's like everything you've done, everything they told you to do equated to a psychological rebound effect that now equates to your big body.
Yeah. And everything else society has said wasn't normal.
Right.
Right and wrong and everything. It's like, look, you've made me like this. Congratulations, you know?
Well, and you believed it and you take ownership of that, right? So now you get to, by choice, and this is the beauty of the fact that you take ownership of that choice. No one's forced you to do this. You just didn't realize that you believed it as if it was sacred truth.
Yeah.
Now you have years of evidence to now take a step back and ask, would you re-accept this knowing what you know now?
No.
Right? Because you're an adult now. You're not a child. You're not a teenager that doesn't question authority.
Yeah.
And we were taught, I know if you're about my age, right? I'm 41. Where are you at?
39.
Okay, same age, same generation. We're the X generation. Don't question authority. Keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
At least that was how I was raised. Don't have your own thought. We'll tell you what to think.
And all of those things, though, I was holding on to them so tight, like they were my foundation. I know what's right and wrong and this and that. And it's just kind of working with you kind of crumbled everything to the ground. And then I have to start over with, like, looking at my soul, who I am inside, and what I believe is right. And starting over.
From the heart versus from the mind. There's a difference between the mind and the heart. The mind is programming. It's just numbers. It really is neutral. So when you're going from the mind, it's coming from some type of programming, right? I've got tons of programming in there.
Yeah.
I to say that I don't, it would be like ridiculous, right?
Right, but isn't it a constant, not a battle, but
it is what it is. The key is
it's like a fluid.
Yes, it is, and it just is there. And it's just how the brain works, right? So to say that I don't have that is fucking stupid. However, I don't take it serious. That's the difference.
Yeah.
There's the difference. If I hear a thought in my mind that's judgy, I know it. I don't believe it. Yeah. Oh, that was judgy. Oh. So it's almost like surrendering your pride as it shows up.
Yeah.
Well, that's like super narcissistic, Robin. Keep yourself in check.
Yeah.
You're not better than anybody. So it's like this, it's so easy. It really is, because you don't ever really have to fight. And if you do get in that fighting position, there's always remorse. Like, oh, that sucks. And then you're willing to just resolve it immediately rather than hold the remorse and guilt down. You resolve it. It's so much easier. It's like living, I call this living live rather than pause, rewind. You're not doing that. That's what you've been doing. That's where the debt showed up. 20 fucking years of debt. Because you pushed pause so many times because you couldn't face it or didn't want to or didn't have the humility. Couldn't admit it. Went into self-deprecation. Hid in a cage somewhere feeling sorry for yourself. You know, what you're doing right now and what the goal would be at this point is to go, okay, push play. Just stop pushing stop and pause. Just keep it on play. And now you know how to resolve things as they arise. Because what it took to resolve all that debt, like this in 2 seconds, was just humility. That's all it took. And willingness to accept reality. Here's the truth. Just accept it. It's always going to be there.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't mean there's no effort. There's no desire. You know, it just means that I'm not willing to go outside of reality ever again. I like to use my book as an example. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's going to be special.
Yeah.
It's going to be boring. Just get prepared. Boring. It's going to be super academic because that's the way I think. That's how my brain thinks. So I'm going to do it that way. And I'm going to try to bring in some heart and soul into it. But a lot of it's academic. It's just like Weight Loss Apocalypse. Super academic. Blech, boring. Repetitive. Right? I'm okay with that. Because it's not for you. It's really for me. Do you see how that works? So there's grace while I'm doing it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So I'm living on play. I don't push pause.
Yeah.
I'm not having to make up differences. It is what it is, as it is. If I might have set a goal to write a book 3 years ago, well, guess what? The goal is now realistically being achieved. I set a goal to have this book done by October 31st. Well, guess what? That was way out of line because I didn't know. It was going to take longer. So I'm living with constant grace. I don't have to push pause, fast forward, rewind. So much easier.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like when you push play, right? You're in that space. That's what I'm hearing it. I'm like, ooh, she's on real time right now. This is good. So one of the things I remember thinking when I recovered, and it was just weird because this just happened. There was no one talking to me about it. I was just in this weird space of ease. It was like I could breathe for some reason. I didn't know really why. I mean, and it has taken me 20 years to have context around it. I remember thinking, I'm afraid this is going to go away. And what solidified it for me was actually understanding the choice I made that got me here is to permanently accept my body and my truth over anything else. Like the truth is the truth. And that is what I want to know and I want to accept. I'm not going to accept an illusion. I don't want an illusion. I want the truth. I want the truth with relationships. I want my husband to be himself. Don't be something he thinks I want to be. That's lying to me. Be the truth of who you are. I will be the truth of who I am. And if it means you are going to reject me, I will accept that truth. So it's like radical truth.
Yeah.
If I can stay there, this isn't going away. It's not going away. Because I'm not going to try to convince myself or someone else that something else is happening, you know?
Yeah.
Did you understand what I just said?
Yes.
Just accept the truth. You're a failure because you couldn't be thinner. How do you feel about that?
Fine.
It's so true, isn't it? Notice how you're not fighting it anymore. If someone wants to believe that, you'll let them think it.
Yeah.
Yep. So true. So true. And notice how you don't care.
Yeah.
Now you're free. If you care about anybody's opinion about your weight, what's going to happen?
You're going to try to fix it.
Yep. And what happens to the freedom?
It goes away. You're a slave to it again.
You got it. You got it. So that's what you need to spend your time thinking about right now.
Okay.
Does that sound like a good assignment?
Yeah.